Hello and welcome to my first ever episode of Restoring Baseline. I'm still thinking about what I'm going to call it, but that's the placeholder for now. Apologies in advance for how shit it is. I hope we can all agree to just look past the production value for now and focus on the value that I'm trying to give. I'm only just getting started, so this is the worst it will ever be. Let's start with me. I'm 24. I don't really like defining myself by my job because it's something I don't really identify with, but I am a software engineer. I can't and won't share specifics about my job for privacy, and I don't want to cause any problems there, so we'll just leave it. Outside of work, I do my best to fill up all my free time. I train Muay Thai 3 times a week. I lift weights 3 times a week. I do some cardio and conditioning 2 or 3 times a week as well. I try and do all the gym stuff at lunch during work to save time, because in the evenings for the last month or so and the foreseeable future, I'm going to be working 100% on content. I live in London. I live with my girlfriend. We've been together for about 2 and a bit years. I also grew up here and I went to the University of Bath. So I wrote a few bullet points down to try and add some structure to this so I don't end up rambling too much. Next up is why I'm doing this, right? Why am I making this content? What do I want to gain out of it? Now, the first answer is that I want to quit my job and I want this to be my job because it's my passion, right? Coaching in all respects, right? I've PT'd people, I've taken Muay Thai sessions, and now what I'm really trying to do is mindset coaching, right? I want to help people make the same changes that I did to pull myself out of the kind of pit of depression and loneliness that a lot of our generation, especially young men, have found ourselves in. So yeah, that's the first point. Why am I doing this? I get it. Okay, I've been in that position. I've been lower than you could probably imagine. I've been addicted to all the things that young men are addicted to, and I want to make it easier to pull yourself out of that by packaging it relatably, right? I've been there. I pulled myself out, and I can save you the work of finding all the information by just giving it to you directly. I have genuine big plans for this. Okay, I want the world to change, and I think it starts with people like me, right? Who changes the world? Who sets what the world looks like? It's always been young men. Whether we're influenced or advised by anyone else, it's really violence, to be honest, that underpins the way that society functions. It's the threat of violence or the lack thereof. And that's the society we're living in right now. We have young men that are distracted and unwilling to change the world, and so we're resigning into ourselves. I think Japan, it's really the worst. They have so many young men that have just resigned from school, work, relationships, and I can see this country going down the same path. So I know I've only just started this, but that is my goal. I want our whole generation to lock in because it's on us to save everyone else, and it's only going to get worse. And why am I placed in a good position to do that? It's my special interest. I think in the most humble way possible that if everyone that was in the same position as me made the same changes I did, we would have a much better society. If everyone was at least happy, I think we could free ourselves up to just make decisions about what we want instead of having to return to a natural human baseline. And it's what I know, right? It's my special interest. Over the last 5 years, I think I've developed a professional knowledge in all the aspects of my life that I want to improve. Right? Fitness, mindset stuff, philosophy, even cooking, right? The way that I see everything I do in my life is I'm going to do it anyway. So how do I do it the best way? And really that extends to being happy in general, right? Living a fulfilled life. I know how good it feels to get there, right? And I know how hopeless you can be at the start. And I just want to share that genuinely. This is the same that I tell people in real life, all my friends who will hear it. You can get to a place where you are just so happy every day. You're so grateful. And I know how hard it is to admit that. I know there's this sort of nonchalant act that you can end up with where you don't even want to say the things that you want, where you don't even want to aim for something because you're so convinced that it's not possible. I came from, and I'm not going to talk about this maybe in a later episode, a really deep depression. I've been in what I would say as dark a place as you can go and survived by luck alone. And that was the foundation for making a change for me. And I don't want other people to have to go to that same place to get that wake up call, right? That's one of the core ideas of my channel, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I don't want people to have to learn the hard way because it sucks, right? Learn the easy way. Listen to what other people's experience can tell you. That's the superpower of humans. And I'll probably make a whole episode on this as well, but it's our superpower that we can use story to convey experience and have people learn, right? This idea of the moral of the story, we can have people learn from other people's experience. So normally you'd have to go through something to understand its effect, but we can use story and we can empathize with stories so that we can learn from them. I've made a ton of videos on this, right? Religious stories, myth. I've made a lot of videos on Harry Potter as well because, it's so mythical in its nature. It follows that kind of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And I really think paying attention to myth and stories from other people is, a real secret to success. So what changed for me was I decided to actively start hunting down the answers. It's like I said earlier about wanting a professional knowledge of all the stuff that I'm going to do. You need to try, right? You're not going to get anywhere. Think about any skill you could learn, your career, relationships, school, lifting weights. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't try, right? If you think that it's just going to come to you naturally, you're not going to get anywhere. It used to be that it used to be that our instincts would guide us well when we were in our natural habitat, right? Because that's the place that they evolved to have us do well in, right? If you listen to your senses, your taste, you follow your gut feeling, that works if you're in the place that those instincts evolved for. The world we're living in now has fake signals that don't have value behind them. So you really have to be conscious about what you decide to do and consume, because if you stay on autopilot, right, which is a natural thing to do, you won't get to where you want to be, right? You'll get to exactly where a human in the animal sense would go if you gave it all this stuff, right? I don't know if you've ever seen, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but I don't know if you've ever seen those kind of what happens when you give like tribes Wi-Fi, when you give them phones, and they just immediately get addicted to porn and doom scrolling and don't do anything. And the people that gave them to them had to take them away again. The same thing happened. Is a funny story a while ago. I think it was North Koreans in the Russian war when they first got access to the internet and they just immediately all started watching porn. You don't have control, right? You're a monkey, and when you get a super normal stimuli, right, something that's more stimulating than your natural environment would have ever, more stimulating than would have ever existed in your natural environment, you just immediately get addicted to it. And so don't beat yourself up about being in that situation. Anyway, enough the tangent. I decided to start actively hunting down the answers, right? How do we live a good life? How do we be happy? And the kind of pipeline that I ended up in because of this, and don't judge me too much here, but this was 5 years ago now, so it was just at the end of the kind of, I guess, young man politics sort of phase. And I found Jordan Peterson, right? And I watched his 12-part, I think it's 12 parts, biblical lecture series. And to this day, that's my recommendation for anyone in this position, right? It's a time investment. They're at least an hour each. But you will learn more about yourself and the world around us if you listen to the knowledge that humans have stored within stories. And the Bible and religion in general are the greatest stories that we've ever told. And as I said before, the function of stories is to house knowledge within them. That's why we use fiction, because we can empathize with it and learn from it. And religion is the kind of culmination of those stories. So that's my first recommendation if you have the time, other than consuming Whammering content. Now, I'm conscious that people might be put off of that because of Jordan Peterson and because of the religious nature, but just go with it, okay? I'm not Christian, wasn't raised Christian. I'm not religious in that sense. Just go for it. It's universal to humanity. Next, kind of for recommendations, the pipeline I went down after that is Jung. So if you've watched any Jordan Peterson, you know that he's always talking about Carl Jung. So that's where I started. I read a book called Man and His Symbols. Again, that could be a whole episode in itself, so I'm not going to get sidetracked, but read that if you're interested. And Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I still have it right here. It's fantastic. I mean, if you're ever looking for content ideas, every single line in there is, a banger. I started lifting weights. I started tracking nutrition. I started bulking. I went from 68 kilos to 88 kilos and then back down to 75 now. And I eventually started training Muay Thai. I think the key thing that people ask me about is, were you scared to do so? And the answer is obviously yes. I was ridiculously anxious for both. I'd never done them before. And it's a place where you're being exposed for your weakness, where you have to admit that you're bad at something to get better. And that's always going to be painful. My best advice is do it afraid. The more afraid you are, the more ROI you get from facing that fear. That's Jung as well. Andrew Huberman, the GOAT of kind of neuroscience and understanding the science behind your brain and the way you think. Same for bodies, any kind of biohacking stuff. He's amazing. Brian Johnson just recently, the guy trying to live forever. If you haven't listened to him in long form, do not judge him. I would really recommend listening to him on the Chris Williamson's podcast. I think it's called Modern Wisdom. It will really open your eyes. And honestly, before I listened to it, I had no idea how much I agreed with him on. I think really for me, what changed was realizing that everyone is playing the same game, right? And it's okay to be losing at it if you admit it. But a lot of people want to go through life not admitting that they're playing the game, right? Not admitting that they want to be attractive, strong, all the things that humans are designed to want. We can kind of resign into this veil of judgment where we think, well, I'm not part of that. That's beneath me. And that's really just an excuse. I was skinny my whole life and I was like, that's not for me. Like, I'm not a gym bro. That's kind of cringe. But, you're still playing the game whether you like it or not. You suck at it. I'm going to do probably full episodes on each of these because I could talk for hours about any of them. And I know I've already started rambling and going on tangents. So I've got some bullet points to stay on track. But we're going to talk about my core ideas. So if you've seen my website and the PDF guide that I have up for free. I also have a full version for £5 if you want to support me. But the kind of core ideas that I'm talking about are mismatch theory and supernormal stimuli, how we spent 99% of human history in the wild, and what I talked about before about our instincts not working in this world that we're in, right? But meaning is finding and satisfying your instincts, right? The meaning of life is existence. We're all different forms of life. Life is just a thing that has evolved to be in all different forms. Now, we don't know exactly where it came from. Maybe they do, but I just don't know. But the only thing that each different life form attempts to do is to exist as much as possible, right? And that's what passing on a lineage is. That's what procreation is. We care more about our children than ourselves because that's the future. We're just different forms of life trying to persist. That's the kind of basic idea that underpins everything that I talk about, really. From there, I think we move to the premise of zoo animals, right? Like, we spent 200,000 years as hunter-gatherers living in groups of, I think, 20 to 30 people. Constant movement, real danger, community. And that's what our instincts are calibrated for. That's the world that our brains think that we're living in. What really opened my eyes to this was this Outdoor Boys video. I'm sure anyone watching this, if you don't know Luke from the Outdoor Boys, you're really missing out. But they did a video living with the Hadza tribe for a couple of days. And it's insane to see the world that we are supposed to live in, right? The world that our bodies evolved for, it's still there, right? And it looks so natural when you look at it. You realize, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what kind of playing sports is mimicking. It's mimicking running around with bows and arrows in the brush, chasing pigs, right? This is what I think I'm doing when I move through the modern world. And it's just really reaffirming to see the real thing. Same thing. I listened to a podcast, David Cho on Joe Rogan a couple years ago. He described living, I believe, with the Hadza tribe as well, and going on hunts with them and how they would run. It's probably like one like tourist tribe that takes all the same people in, but either way, it's the same thing. It's the life that humans are designed to live, and seeing that will really change your perspective on how you want to live. So we evolved for that environment, right? We evolved to run, hunt, raise our children, to sleep all in the same place, right? Like every single person you know, all is around you, right? You grow up with that constant being watched, but it's not being watched in a negative way. It's reputation and community, things that we've lost in the kind of anonymous world we're living in now. You know, you shouldn't ever see a stranger in your life. That concept doesn't make sense to your brain. You shouldn't see a person that you've never seen before. We immediately think that's danger, right? And our brain is constantly pinging that to us when we live in a city. That's how you get antisocial and scared. You know, it's stimulating, it's stressful to see that. You should, I really believe that cities are terrible, and I think that we should all try and live in smaller places where we know people. I think it's that same feeling of school where even if you don't know everyone on a personal level, you've seen their face before. There's that feeling that if someone steps out of line, if someone does something crazy, you would hear about it, and there's other people you could tell that know that person, you know. I'm going to go off on a tangent here. A couple nights ago, there was this drunk guy in a pub. I was out with my friends, and he started a fight outside. And he was hitting the guy on the ground. It was me. I can very proudly say that went over and kind of tackled him off. And then when we stood them up and we said, you know, it's done, it's not worth it, and we tried to get them to walk away, the drunk guy that had attacked him, he just walked away. And, you know, we didn't follow him. This is a kind of personal failing on my part, something I was thinking about when I went to sleep that night. But we let him walk away. And we didn't know who he was. He left. We'll probably never find him. The police came after. You know, we gave him a description, but that shouldn't exist. You shouldn't see someone, especially someone attacking someone else, that you don't recognize, because that's how that problem goes on, right? It's how we don't treat that problem. If we knew who that was, we could take care of them, right? It's alcoholism, it's repressed issues. But when we're in an anonymous world, we can't help people properly. Anyway, enough of a tangent. The modern world we're living in, isolation, right, instead of community, stillness instead of movement, this sedentary lifestyle that we've built for ourselves, it's killing us. We don't belong here. And our brains know that subconsciously. If you make that conscious change to understand that in your waking mind, it's going to really change how you look at the world around you. That's something called mismatch theory, right? Where our brains haven't changed, but our environments have. Evolution takes hundreds of thousands of years to act. And I think people have this misconception in the modern world that we somehow evolved with our environment, and that we aren't the same as the people that were hunter gatherers, right? And it's because the people around you, I mean, look at them. They're not hunting or gathering anything except, you know, goy slop from Sainsbury's. But sorry, just having some water. But every single one of those people has the same body and brain as a hunter-gatherer, right? They have the same Homo sapien build. They have the same potential for that life. They've just squandered it. But you can always come back. That was one of my biggest takeaways from listening to Brian Johnson. He said he spent 42 years completely destroying his body, you know, depressed, eating crap. And he bounced back almost immediately. Your body has this innate ability to reclaim its humanity. And I think that is, if that doesn't fill you with hope, I don't know what could. You can always come back. It's never too late. It's, you know, the fear that animals in captivity have when you release them. I've talked about this in a few videos, but Google it up right now. There's this video of a tiger getting released back into the wild, and it's terrified, right? It's grown up in captivity and it's being released into freedom, and it's terrifying for it because it doesn't know that it's built for that. It doesn't know that it can survive there, that it will have a better life. And that's the same situation we're in, right? The known slavery is less frightening than the unknown freedom. And I mean, not to go into it again, no, I'm going on so many tangents, but that's the story of Exodus, right? Where the slaves are led out of Egypt by Moses, I think it's Moses, and they immediately turn on him, right? Because what you get when you leave slavery is not paradise. It's 40 years wandering the desert. And that's true for everyone. That's why it's a religious story. That's why it carried so far, because that's true. When you leave the path that you know, even if something has the opportunity to be better, we're scared of it because we don't know how to work it yet. But that's a leap of faith, right? That's the basis of democracy, was Exodus. When they left, they had to order themselves in a new way. And that's what you need to do for yourself as well. So I'm going to talk a bit through the guide now. I've already gone through 21 minutes of time. So if you've made it this far, genuinely, thank you so much. This is going to be the worst video podcast that I ever make. It's only going to get better from here. So thank you. I want to talk through the guide that I've written because, I spent a couple of weeks on it. I don't get paid for that. And it's a passion project, right? I try to distill all of the information that I have in my head into something that I can share easily. So yeah, we're going to talk through it now. The operating principles, right? The first one is intentional consumption. Don't eat, watch, or do anything that you didn't actively choose. And I felt like it is not a reason. I think it's really worth analyzing the things that you want and separating them from things that you need, right? We want taste, attraction, comfort. We want to sit down, but it's not good for us to sit down, right? We're built to spend our entire lives wanting food to be abundant and free and right in front of us and require no effort. But what happens to animals in zoos when you give that to them? What's happened to us? It's not as fulfilling. We're meant to struggle for it our entire lives and never get it. So analyze all the things that you want, right? Even just a couple of weeks ago, I thought about shoes, right? Why do I want shoes? I bought some barefoot shoes because why do I want them, right? Why do I want shoes? Why do I want shoes that look good? What's the actual reason? And 9 times out of 10, it's that everyone else is doing it and you're wired for comfort and it's making your life worse. So that's the first principle, intentional consumption. Everything has an opportunity cost. And the time that you spend, just as much as the things that you consume, like food, the content that you consume has a massive opportunity cost, because watching tricks your brain into thinking that it's doing, right? When you see something stimulating, when you see something exciting, your brain thinks that it's there. So you can feasibly spend your entire life tricking your brain that way, thinking you're doing things, and you'll end up in the exact same spot that you started at. It's a real danger. Second operating principle, decide once and then stop deciding, right? Willpower is finite. You need to set your life up so that you don't need to make decisions day to day. Think about the place that we came from, right? That 99% of human history that I'm always talking about. Following your instincts was easy. If you followed your taste, you would get to nutrition. If you avoided things that were bitter, you'd avoid poison. You'd avoid stuff that was bad for you. But these days, we can't follow that same subconscious guide. And so we're having to constantly choose what we pay attention to, what we consume. And that decision every day is overwhelming. It's too much. You're not supposed to have to decide all day. So my best advice here is make the decision once and set the new default, right? Let's say we're on a diet and we don't want to eat cookies. If you don't buy the cookies, you don't have to resist them. But if you're in a situation, even in your own head, where it might be allowed to have them, right? If they're in your house, you'll have to resist them every time and you're going to fail, right? You need to forgive yourself. You need to understand that you are not stronger than this stuff. You're going to fail if you have to resist every time. So just don't have them in your house. And, it's not just about cookies, obviously. Our brains are a stream, right? A river. It's hard to redirect, but once it's done, the water's going to flow on its own and it's going to cut its own path in the direction that you want. Spend that effort at the start setting up the direction and then walk away. Leave it. Don't think about it again, because if you obsess about constantly tweaking the path you're on, you're not going to get anywhere. The last operating principle is being your own coach, right? And I talked about this earlier. It's about being professional in everything you're doing, because it is your calling. It is your occupation. What you're going to do all day is live. And that's the only thing you're ever going to do. So do it as well as you can. The goal is not to follow rules blindly. It's to understand why these things work so that you can coach yourself, right? Become an expert in whatever you want to do. Don't just go with the flow. Don't just think that you'll get where you want by accident, right? Look into the things that you want to know. That can be your own niche thing that you're learning, right? Your own skill or career path. But there's also things that everyone needs to know, right? Psychology, philosophy, and nutrition. These are things that you must know. They're the baseline. You can't get around them because you're going to live and eat either way. So I guess that's the core idea. Anything you're going to do anyway, be good at it. If you're going to cook yourself dinner every night, be really good at it. Find the right things to eat and prepare them so they taste good. Well, we can get into it later why you shouldn't make everything taste good. But the point still stands. Anything you're going to do it well. We're going to go into the points now, okay? The 9 repairs. The first principle is to start at baseline. And this is really the only thing that you need to understand. The rest will follow it if you can get this right. Instead of trying to remove all the bad things from your life, start from zero, right? It can be so overwhelming. People telling you avoid seed oils, avoid non-stick pans, all the things that you need to remove from your life. And that's because the premise of that is accepting that this life that we're in is normal, that this is the standard, and that if you want to change it, you have to take this as the starting point and remove things. But I just think that's fundamentally wrong. And it ties back to that same thing I've been talking about this whole time. Imagine you're a hunter-gatherer with nothing, right? Because you are, that's what you have. And add back only what genuinely helps. For every habit, for everything that you do or consume, think, would this help a hunter-gatherer? Would I give this to someone else? Right? It's the same idea I always talk about. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for looking after. Do you want yourself to have this? Right? If you started at zero. Exercise. Yes, they already have that. So it's not even, that's baseline. That's a given. Whole Foods, same thing. Yes, they already have that. Porn? No, it should not be something that you have to remove. It should be something that you don't have in the first place. Now, this goes differently for things that you're already consuming and addicted to, like porn. I don't remember what the stat is, but it's a pretty disgusting amount of young men that are genuinely addicted to porn, so much that it's become normal. That'll be its own episode because it's such a big problem. That's why it's the first step of my 9-step plan. 10 hours of screen time, would you give that to a hunter-gatherer? Obviously not. But you've given it to yourself and you accept it because it's normal, because it's average, right? This is another idea I talk about all the time. This idea that being average is what your brain wants to be, right? That's why you don't like things that are weird. You don't like people that are weird or abnormal, because your brain wants to keep you average. And that's because during the time you evolved, the people around you were the ones alive. Infant mortality, the people that didn't make it out of childhood, the people that made it to become adults, was so much less than now. So the people that were alive were the ones that survived, and there was only one way to survive. So you looked around at the people around you and you thought, okay, well, they're doing as well as possible. They're doing as well as possible, right? They're alive. So I want to be like that. Now, these days, look at the people around you. Look at the average. We've got 10 hours of screen time, obese, depressed, suicidal. Being average, if you listen to that voice in your head telling you to judge things that are different from average, things that are weird, you will remain average. You will stay like that. That's the first switch you need to make. these people, your brain is drawing you towards them, and you need to ignore them. Like that sort of meme of elevate your circle. You need to elevate your circle. You need the people around you. You need your average to be a bar that you want to rise to, not an average that you fall to. These are the 9 repairs. This has been a half an hour now. So again, if you're still here, thank you. I'm gonna try and stick to maybe a minute or two on each because these will also be full episodes. I've got big plans, so stay tuned. Step one of the repairs. Step one is self acceptance, right? You can't build a foundation of self hatred. Self improvement that starts with shame is always going to fail because that becomes its own addiction where you beat yourself up about not being where you want to be, where you self criticize and it feels mean. You're not going to build anything from there. You need to learn how to be happy with where you are now and also want to increase. You also want to better yourself. And that's a balance that a lot of people find difficult because fundamentally wanting to better yourself requires admitting that you could be better. But I think the real distinction is you could be better in the future. You couldn't be better now. The way that you are now is the only way that you are. And you have to accept that. Like, there's no way around it. If you're unhappy with the present moment, that itself is a problem and there's no way you can change it. So it doesn't make sense to feel bad about it. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for looking after because all problems are one problem, right? There's the same person in charge of every area of your life. And that person is you and you're in charge of you. That person that's in charge needs to be stronger than the internal follower that you have. That's your primal brain, your subconscious. Your conscious mind needs to be the one making decisions and setting the boundaries of what your subconscious mind is free to do, right? You need to, it's like I said earlier, you need to divert that river with your conscious mind, and then your subconscious is just going to flow in the direction that you want it to. Now, step two, and these are in order of priority. These are the things I think, if this isn't something you can just tick off as, oh, not a problem for me, this is the first thing that I would start with. This is content addiction. So porn and slop. These are the biggest fake signals in the modern world, right? I talked earlier about how we have taste that doesn't have nutrition behind it. We have things that taste good but don't help you. And taste is true for art and story in the same way. What we consume in that sense is also driven by our instincts, our taste, because it's looking for value, right? I said this earlier again, stories carry truth and meaning, and our subconscious can decide where that truth and meaning is from looking and hearing stories. We can pick them out. That's why great stories travel on their own, right? It's not up to a person. This is the idea of meme, that our brains, our subconscious can pick out valuable stories and spread them. And so they move on their own. They're their own entities. Your brain is looking for that. Your brain is looking for things that taste good and sound good. And the modern world that we're living in has fake value signals. It has slop content the same way we have slop food. And your brain cannot distinguish the real thing from the simulated. These are super normal stimuli, right? Signals stronger than anything that exists in nature. So failure is a given, right? You're obviously going to become addicted. The solution is not moderation or acceptance. It has to just be removal. Okay, you don't moderate heroin. You make the bad option impossible, not something you fight. And there's a lot of strategies to this that I won't go into now, but treat it as the top priority in your life. Okay, if you're addicted to porn and doom scrolling, sort that out first. And don't beat yourself up about it because it's normal now. It's not your fault, but it is your problem. Step 3 is linked to that, but it's screen addiction in general, right? The average young adult, I've got the stat here, spends 4 hours a day on their phone alone. And that's not including TV, laptops, anything else, just on their phone. Your screen time is your free time, right? They're the same thing. If you have 4 hours of screen time a day, that's 4 hours that you could be doing anything else. Just think how far you could get with just 1 hour a day. I mean, I think the real problem is that people haven't done anything in their lives, so they don't know how little it takes. But I mean, 4 hours a day, you could do anything. Any dream you have, you could achieve that. Inaction in this sense is action, right? Choosing to scroll is choosing not to train, read a book, connect with people. It's the trolley problem where inaction is the choice that you make. I think the only option is to set limits that you can't bypass. I use an app called Screen Zen, um, so that you can't. It basically stops you from opening the app more than X amount of times for X amount of minutes each time. I also saw another app called Social Light, Lite, that turns your TikTok or Instagram app into the same thing, just without the Reels tab, which is really useful. I mean, that's what it used to be back when I was a kid, before we had Reels, and it was a lot less addictive. It was still addictive and harmful for a lot of different ways, but not on the same scale. Step 4 is comfort addiction. So comfort at this scale is brand new for the human species, right? More comfort has never led to more happiness. It just raises the threshold of what you want every time. This is called the hedonic treadmill. Basically, every time you get more comfort, your brain immediately adapts to that as your baseline, and you still need more, right? There's no destination that you reach. You just keep wanting to climb. And that's the situation we're in right now, where we were born at the top of the treadmill, and so we see that as baseline. We still want more. There's people that think that they don't want to have kids, and this could be you, that they don't want to have kids because the world isn't comfortable enough, that it's too hard. And I mean, just think about how disconnected that is from a human, a Homo sapien perspective. This is the easiest life we've ever lived, and there's people that think this isn't easy enough. The next point in this is boredom, right? Boredom is your brain asking, what am I supposed to be doing? And if you scroll every time, if you find something comfortable to distract yourself with, you silence that boredom. But think about that question, right? What am I supposed to be doing? That might be the most important question that you could possibly find the answer to. And if you're distracting yourself every time you get bored, you won't find the answer. You need to be able to sit for 5 minutes alone and listen to yourself in your own head. You need to be comfortable there, because this is personally what I did in the last couple of months. This is why I started making content, is I was sitting for, a couple of hours at a time, not doing anything, just thinking in my own head. That's how you come up with answers. If you can walk at the same time, even better. Voluntary discomfort in small doses, right? Sitting in silence, cold exposure, walking without a destination. That's how you let your brain understand that it can be less comfortable. Marcus Aurelius did this thing called Greek training. Greek as in, at the time, he was the Roman emperor, and the Greeks were the sort of philosopher nation, neighbor. And Greek training, he would sleep on the floor. He would make himself uncomfortable to remind his brain to be grateful for the comforts that he did have, and to remind him that he didn't need more. And I think that's something that we should all try and practice. Step 5, exercise. I'm not going to go too much into this because, for probably 2 years, I was a full-on exercise science gym bro. I know way too much about this, and I don't want to start rambling. Movement is not a bonus, okay? It's the biological minimum. Hunter-gatherers walked 9 to 15 kilometers a day. The bare minimum for us, gym twice a week, exercise for at least an hour every day in some form. 7,000 steps a day is the bare minimum for metabolic health. If you get less than that, you're going to die sooner. I don't remember the exact stat on this, but 8 hours of sitting is really, really bad for you. Even if you offset it with exercise, try and stand up as much as possible. Try and move around as much as possible. I'm conscious of saying that while I'm sat down for like 45 minutes now, but let's wrap this up. Consistency beats motivation. If it feels impossibly hard, change the approach. It should feel easy to exercise. It should feel good. It's going to make your brain feel good, and it's going to motivate you to keep doing it. If you're in that state where it's the first time you're doing it and you don't have that motivation, that discipline yet, you have to just push through it. I promise you, because it will come. The first time is always hard, right? There's anxiety. It hurts. You get sore. Please just stick with it, because it takes probably a month of exercise before you can start enjoying it. And that's for everyone. Probably it'll come faster. Step 6 is linked again. It's diet. Your taste buds are being lied to, and that's something that you really need to understand. There's food engineers out there designing products to override your satiety signals. If you eat ultra processed food, you eat about 500 extra calories a day. I mean, that's why everyone's so fat. It's really that simple. That and insulin sensitivity. Please try and cook your own food, or if you won't, then at least try and eat whole single ingredient food. Connected to this idea, right? And stay with me now. Ancient civilizations were fasting, meditating, and praying as defenses against impulse, right? We abandoned all of them, but we're facing 1,000 times more temptation than they ever did. Fasting is learning to ignore your body telling you it's hungry, and then once you fast for long enough, you stop being hungry and you get this amazing feeling of energy and clarity in your head. But you have to break through that instinct telling you you need to eat or you're gonna die. That's the fundamental idea behind resisting this fake signal of nutrition. Step 7 is a really big one that, I think the others, people are at least aware of them. People want to go on their phone less. People want to eat better. But fear, right? Fear is a survival instinct from a world that we're not living in anymore. And there's so much in this. The things that you're afraid of are usually the things that you most need to do. And I'm going to give a neuroscience tip with this one. There's this part of your brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, the AMCC, and it physically grows in your head when you do things that are hard that you don't want to do, and it shrinks when you do things that are easy to do. It's bigger in athletes and it's smaller in obese people. But the interesting thing is that this is the part of your brain that literally determines your will to live, right? Your willpower to be alive, how much you want to be alive, and how much willpower you have to exercise that right to be alive. It's determined by the things you do that you don't want to do. And I don't mean hard things like the gym, because once you've been going to the gym for a while, at least for me, I love it. I look forward to it. It's usually the highlight of my day. I go with a friend. It feels good. That doesn't count because I want to do it. Maybe specific sets in the gym that I don't want to do, stuff that's hard, counts. But you need to think about something that you genuinely don't want to do and face it, right? For me, it was public speaking. Making this podcast, I've never done this before. It's scary. People are going to hear this and judge me for it. But, well, now I'm scaring myself. You need to face those fears, because to live is to struggle, right? Any sort of life has always been full of pain and suffering. So learning to enjoy that suffering, learning to chase it, that's how you lead a life that you want to continue living. I don't know if any of you have seen that clip of Alex Honnold talking about people in an airport, like stressing out over the flights and stuff, and he's bewildered. If you don't know who he is, he's the guy that he climbed that building a couple weeks ago. He free soloed El Capitan, which is climbing cliffs without a rope. And he was calm in the airport. People were freaking out about missing their flights. And he was like, what are you so scared of? Like, you've got an abundance of food around you. You're in a climate-controlled building, and you're freaking out about fake things. And it's because when you remove real fear from your life, your brain will look for it somewhere else. You need that feeling of stress and fear, but you get to pick it. And if you don't pick it, it will pick you. I think this is Carl Jung, who said, where your fear is, there your task is. And I've got another quote off the top of my head. Joseph Campbell said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And this is a fundamental idea to the hero's journey, right? Every hero is someone that leaves their comfortable life and faces something they're afraid of. And every time they come back, enlightened. That's what nirvana is. It's descending to the underworld and coming back transformed, because, like Harry Potter, you need to die and come back to remove the evil part within you. And that's the Jungian shadow, right? The thing that you avoid looking at that's inside you. Facing your fears and facing that part of yourself, that's how you improve. Step 8, relationships. Okay, this is a quick one. Loneliness has the same health impact of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. We evolved in groups of 20 to 30 where you knew every face, reputation was everything, and you weren't supposed to see strangers, right? If you saw another human, it was someone from like an opposing tribe or something. It was a threat. It's scary to us. You need a community around you. Social isolation is so bad for you. And I know how difficult it is to find that, right? People look for it online, and it's the same thing that scrolling imitates. It imitates socializing, but it's not the same thing. Okay, I don't have that many points written down, and I want to get through this one quick. But again, this will be a whole episode in the future. Find community, spend time with your friends, and make a real effort, because speaking from experience, if you don't put that effort in, it won't come. It will drop away. It will fade away, especially in this world that we're in right now that's trying to separate us. The last step of the list, we're definitely not going to talk about now, because I guarantee at least one of those last 8 things you have not mastered yet. And step 9 is goals, right? What do you do once you've figured out those other things, once you've got back to baseline, once you've become that sort of that person that's free of the modern detriments, that's not being harmed anymore? You're just at baseline. This is when you want to set goals. This is when you want to find your purpose, because if you've made it this far, you probably don't need a grand purpose anymore. That panic that you feel about wasting your life or needing some big goal to succeed, it's gone. The only things that remain are genuine interest. And for most people, this is when they decide to turn to art. Being sort of jacked, rich, happy, they're not goals, right? They're external manifestations of an internal problem being solved. And that problem is these last 8 things that I talked about. They're side effects, right? So if you chase those as the outcome, you won't get them. If you chase the process of improving yourself, then they'll come naturally. It's at this stage where you can start trying as many things as possible. If you have any fears left over, like if you're afraid of heights, chase that. Find something that you're afraid of. If you're afraid of women approaching people in public, try that. Exposure therapy is still, the number one most effective and recommended therapy for, any anxiety disorder. It works. So yeah, I really wouldn't worry about this step unless you've dealt with the past 8. So yeah, we'll leave that for another episode. All of that is in order, right? I mentioned this earlier, but it's all in order. You can't skip to exercise to fix your goals if you hate yourself, right? You can't set goals for yourself, these big grand designs, if you're addicted to your phone. Each step is building on the last, and the sequence is really the thing that no one talks about. You can't try and patch a leaky roof if your foundation is falling away. Most advice that I've seen tends to give out step 9 first of, pick these grand goals for your life, decide where you want to go. But something I learned from Jocko Willink is you don't need a big plan. You need to go with the flow and day by day divert your direction, change your direction based on the opportunities that present themselves to you. And I think you can only make those decisions day by day if you've got back to a human baseline. I think that's what we'll do for today. I'm going to wrap things up now. If you don't already know, everything I've talked about, everything here, it's in a guide. There's a free version and a full one that costs £5. I spend a lot of time working on this stuff, and right now I don't get anything back. I'm doing it, for the love of the game, to try and improve and help other people. So if you do want to support me, you can buy that. I spent a couple weeks on it. If you do buy it, you get access to every future revision. You can DM me anything you want. We'll talk. We can even call anything you like. I really just want to help you guys. If I could be 18 again and everything that I needed to hear could be in one place, that was the idea behind making it. So it's everything that I would have wanted to hear to pull myself out of the state I was in. This is the first episode. I'm hoping to make this weekly and eventually get some guests on this. It's felt a bit weird to talk to myself for 45 minutes. I think 50 minutes now. I think it would probably be easier to flow with someone else to bounce off of. But we'll leave it there. I'm on all socials: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. This will be on Spotify. I've got a newsletter coming soon. Probably a community and some sort of one-to-one coaching, because I'm just getting so many DMs right now asking for advice that it's getting a bit overwhelming to reply to them all, and I can't do it anymore. If you do want to support me, best thing to do is just follow me, like, share. I really appreciate it. It means a lot more than you can know. And if you're here this early in my journey, you can say that you were there at the start, because I am going to make it and I have big plans. Thank you very much if you've made it this far. Genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, it means a lot. Goodbye.